I think this is Hangout
You're
is live.
alive.
Okay, yeah, there we go. It's always a sort of a crapshoot with the Google, as we always know. So hey everybody, welcome to welcome to. Hang on a second. Let me go over here and shut my thing down here.
I didn't know our show got named to Hang On a Second.
You like that? No, I was hearing myself because I have the YouTube open on the left hand side, and I realized I had muted it. So I'm hearing myself echo in my headset. So like unbelievable. And I'm a tech guy. I should know better. So everyone, hello and welcome to Masculine Geek 19. I think yes, we're up to 19, and we are now waiting for Sam to join us. Sam, if you can hear me, your Hangout link is in your Twitter DM. So you can go ahead and click that and join us. If you need me to email it to you, oh, there you go. I see you chatting back at me. Gotcha. Whenever you're ready, Sam, we're going to be here, so it's cool. You take your time whenever you're ready to join us. And hey, everybody, what's up, Luke? I hit that thumb. you
That's
beat him.
my boy, Luke. That's
Thanks, Luke.
my boy. He knows how this works.
Yes.
The dog and pony show goes. That's my boy.
You're man, he's got it down.
He does, absolutely. There you go. All right, cool. Welcome. This should be a really great episode. We're looking forward to it.
Yes.
What do you got in the pipe today, Luke?
In Washington, there could be a variety of different options.
Yeah, there could be.
Get the Kool-Aid out. Jeez. What's up, got Rugged Legacy? Quiet Nights. Oh, okay. I love the names of some of the tobaccos. They're just so they're poetically lyrical. What's up, Eden? How are you? GLPs. That little monkey wrench next to your name, Rob, is pretty cool. I like it.
Me too.
Rob, be a moderator.
Yeah, I'm being a moderator.
Yep, you got the cigar and everything. You got to put your feet up.
Let's see if I can pull that off.
There we go.
Now he looks like Grandpa.
There you go. And now you have to twirl the mustache.
It's not long enough.
No. Okay. Yeah. I know. I just got a new shaver, one that George Bruno recommended, and I'm just getting used to it. And it just went ahead and went down too low, so I got the scruff going.
Sweet.
Yeah. One bottle of Chardonnay. Okay. There you go. I think Eaton likes his Chardonnay. I think you had that before, didn't you?
What's everyone else smoking and drinking? Well, I'm doing one of my Perdomo Habanos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of these guys that I've had for a while.
Nice.
And agua.
Oh, some agua fria. There you go. What's up, T? How are you? Good evening to you.
Tony, what up, buddy?
Yeah, good to see you here too. I am drinking neither because I am still in a modified monk mood for the month of May. So, and if you want to know what that is, I'm sorry. You should have been on the newsletter because I explained it, so you miss out. Maybe I'll talk about it a little later. So, yeah, I mean, this strict monk mode that George was talking about and recommending Victor Pride's book. Not for anything. You can't follow that to the letter unless you don't work. It's very strict. You have to have a lot of time to do this. So I'm doing a modified version that fits my 9 to 5, as it were. So I'm headed to a course for 6 weeks and doing 3. That's cool. Yeah, even not for anything. Even a short 3-day, focusing yourself, clearing toxins out of your body.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You'll enjoy it.
So Vince, what about a 3-hour monk mode?
a 3-hour monk mode. Yeah, you know what? 3 hours. Get out.
How about a 3-minute monk mode? I can do that for 3 minutes.
I think we all do 3-minute monk modes easily. And a lot of the stuff I was already doing, like meditation in small scales, at least 10 minutes a day. Usually in the mornings when I go and work on a break, and then if not on the afternoon after lunch before I work out, and then in the evening. Sometimes I slip up and I'm too busy and I actually forget to meditate. I try to make it be as conscious as possible about that. But now that I'm focused on it, it's part of the regimen. So
I do that when my wife says her jaw hurts. Do what? Go into monk mode?
That's funny.
Making necessity a virtue, right?
There you go. Turn that into a t-shirt.
That'd be a good one, actually.
I know, right? There
Monk
you go.
mode for when the wife says her jaw hurts.
That's funny. Oh man. All right, so we have 18 watching. We had 19. Somebody left. Boo.
Well, we can do
What?
Geek show and tell.
What?
You what?
Oh, I was saying we could do. At least I can do. Geek
Yeah,
show and tell because
we're just completely. Yeah. What is this? Oh, it's. Sorry. Go ahead. Thought it was.
Hit it, TJ. Hit it.
Yeah, go ahead. TJ has. We're lame today. We have nothing.
yeah, you know what?
George. Yay!
I know, right, George? We're gonna do a T-shirt. It's gonna.
Monk mode for when
So-
my jaw hurts.
So since if it pleases the crown, I can do
Yeah.
my show and tell. Okay.
Please do. Yes.
Thank you, Your Majesty. So in honor of Artiste Day being kicked off of WordPress, so all of you with a drink, toss some of it out for him. This is 1984, and if you look very carefully, that is the first American edition of 1984.
Wow. That's great.
So
Where did you find that at?
That's T17 classified.
Gotcha. Okay, you have to kill us.
Okay. No, actually, I was at my buddy's house, and his mom had it, and she just said, "I'm actually supposed to give her money for it, but don't mention that." Let no debt remain outstanding. I've committed that flaw. But it was obviously George Orwell was a British author, and it was published first in Britain. This edition was the American Book Club edition.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the many rare books that I have in my possession that are up on my bookshelf, and so yeah, that's other. I also have written a bunch of censorship-related stuff that you can read. My books, we won't go into that. We'll do that at the end. But I've also done some short stories that I'll mention at the very end of the podcast. But a couple of them have gone prophetic, but we'll talk about that later.
They are, yeah. You're like this accidental seer.
I'm the self-fulfilling prophet.
Whether you want to be or not.
Yeah, whether you want
there's
it or
another
not.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm the self-fulfilling prophet.
There you go. There's another one. Write that down. We have a bunch of them like that. The thing I said, the stuff that you guys are coming up with.
The self-fulfilling prophet.
That sounds like a good either novel or short story. The self-fulfilling prophet. I need to write this down.
Yeah, you probably ought to.
So.
Sorry, it's work text. Yeah, 500 things at once here.
Gee,
Right,
you
so
kind of
that-
sound like Aaron.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Mr.
Well, not
5'9".
500, but at 3 things. I know, right? So, but yeah, we'll hang out. We'll do a little chatting as we wait for Sam. And,
Who was it I saw that had? Was it George Bruno who had the Westland whiskey? I think I saw in one of his videos. Since we're
Maybe.
talking about whiskey, let's see. He's probably going to comment on it. But that's actually from the Seattle area, and I have actually. Oh, I'll do a show and tell. Let me show mine off. Really.
Please do, yeah. Since we're lame and have nothing.
If it please the crown.
All right, that's funny.
Oh man.
I got 23 in the.
Eden, thanks. Yeah, we're gonna be doing a bunch of other. He was talking about my podcast on American.
Oh yeah.
On American history. So I'll be doing a bunch of more in that series. So if you haven't checked that out, you can go to tjmartinell.com, and if you're smart, you'll find the link. So This is the original Deacon Seat whiskey. So it's a single malt whiskey that came out, and it was part of their original. If you look very carefully right there,
Oh, the seal.
Yeah, so it was number one, and it came out in 2013. So it was a limited release of 5,000 bottles. And so a little trick that a patriarch of a family friends did. He would buy whiskey like this, and then he would get cheap whiskey and he'd pour it into this bottle, into bottles like this. So his friends would come over and he'd have these very nice whiskey bottles filled with, the regular
whiskey.
stuff. Yeah. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And that how old now? How old is that bottle?
This bottle came out in 2013. So
okay.
the thing about Westland, that was not Westland, is that they only do whiskey, or they only do certain very nice liquors. Because most distilleries, what they'll do is they want to come out immediately with a vodka because it doesn't take very long to produce and it can be sold very quickly. Whereas whiskeys take a really long time to, if you're going to do it right, you age it. And so this was aged. I have the box, actually, the original box, and why they called it the Deacon Seat. So in the Old West, when they were clearing out woods or whatever, building a house or settlement, the first thing that they build is a Deacon Seat. So that's where you would sit. That's where you do songs, tell stories, hang out, and converge. So this was representing their first actual whiskey. And so it was released in 2013. And my buddy, who's a big connoisseur of whiskeys, buys this by the big bottles.
Okay.
So I've held on to this, but I won't say what we celebrated because it's obviously gone. I won't say what we opened the bottle up for.
Another thing that's classified.
Another thing that's classified.
There's a lot of classified things out there. What's going on?
Jesus.
There's nothing classified here on Mass.
Hey, I'm working on cultivating that aura of man of mystery, right?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's supposed to be mysterious, right?
Well, then you don't say anything about it. You just have it on that table behind you next to your typewriter. And you don't say anything.
And then when someone asks, you go, "What bottle?"
What are you
when
talking
you go
about?
back to look at it, it's gone.
Yeah.
No, what I can do is there's a store that sells Jim Beam really cheap. So I could go buy this and fill it up with this. And most people, you add a little. That's what they did during Prohibition. If you guys have ever watched, if you signed up to the newsletter early enough, you would have gotten the one where I gave a bunch of movies to recommend. And one of them is The Roaring Twenties, which is with James Cagney. And he's a bootlegger, but he ends up making his own liquor. And what he does is all these different tricks to sell cheap liquor packaged as very expensive stuff that's from overseas. So there's the guys who import stuff from the foreigners, but then there were the guys making bathtub gin and then trying to peddle it as stuff that was coming from England.
Okay.
So all these little things that you can do.
Yeah, and if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get to be. There's a lot of everything. It's very esoteric, very eccentric, and it's entertaining. So.
Yeah, Luke in the chat is saying minimum of 4 years for whiskeys and bourbons. Yeah, that's so. A lot of places are trying. They want to make money while they're waiting for the whiskeys to be aged, and Westland didn't do that. Now, why they chose not to do that, I don't know. I think they just wanted to focus on making whiskey. Gotcha. They just wanted to make either bourbon or a single malt. So I don't know. I think my buddy bought one of these and he's never opened it. So I'll have to maybe switch the models. Actually, no, that would be bad.
I'm a little fuzzy on the whole good bad thing.
Yeah, hey, you gotta have a little bit of a scoundrel in you, or nobody likes the boring by the book all the time.
Well, that was if you got it, that was a Ghostbusters reference.
I am gonna commit. I've seen parts of the movie. I've not seen all of it.
All right. Remember when you're busting? Do you remember when you're busting on Aaron?
Okay, he had not seen The Godfather. He has not seen The Godfather to this date.
All right. Well, that's a valid point too. But you have not. Come on, everyone in the chat. TJ hasn't seen the original Ghostbusters.
I've seen parts of it. I watched it when I was a young kid with my parents, and I didn't get the movie at the time.
So, like what, 2 years ago or something?
2 years ago. It was 3. Get it right.
Well, you got to go in for cheap. You got the senior discount.
This is true.
We did actually. Yes.
Yep.
We are that old.
Didn't even have to use my walker.
We just used our canes.
I didn't even need that. I didn't even need ID. They're just like, go in, Grandpa, you're good.
It's free for you. You're.
That's right. Hey,
You're
that
just
you know
saying.
what? I'd go to a lot more movies if that was the case.
I know, right?
Right.
Don't cross the streams. There you go.
What?
You said not to cross the streams.
I just know the part where they're at the university, and I think it was Dan Aykroyd who's saying, I've worked in the private sector. They expect results.
They expect results. Yes. All right, well, all right. That's something like Aaron would remember.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he's the one who said that to me. That reminded me. I think
okay. That's where you got the reference.
Either in his books or whatever. But I know the bad guy's from the EPA.
He is, yeah.
Shock.
Walter Peck, I think.
He's also the same actor who played the shady reporter in Die Hard.
I don't recall. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you. I just don't remember.
No. We had to inject some nerdy.
He remembers.
Cool. You know who else remembers? Pepper Farms.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. Pepperidge Farm. Do they even make? Do they still? I mean, they still make those cookies, but do they even make those commercials anymore?
I haven't seen one in a while.
No,
Well,
I don't have.
It's funny how they've segregated commercials, because I remember when I was a kid watching non-cable TV, you would have the cereal commercials. I don't think I've seen a cereal commercial in 15, 16 years on anything. But back in the day, it would just be on some channel. But I think now, I haven't had a TV. I have a TV, but I haven't had a TV since when they made the transition where you had to get you had to get some sort of antenna or whatever for the new TVs
to get the
right?
digital.
Yeah, to get the digital. And so since then, I've kind of just checked out from the world of TV watchers.
Well, here's a question for you guys, and this is for the people in the chat too, since we're talking about the 80s. And I got to throw it out there because otherwise we're going to get off track and I'll forget about it. The movie Christmas Story, where the kid. Okay, I could swear to God there was at least, and it might be in the original, like the original trailer, the original screening, the unedited, I guess, because I haven't seen it on TV in a while. But there was the scene when it's Christmas Day. They're all opening packages. The wife puts the bowling ball in the husband's lap, and and he does that kind of stuff because he's getting his nards smashed. But I could swear there was one point where she handed him a rectangular package from the boys, and it was cigarettes, because that's what he goes. He's like, oh, this is from, him. And he opens up. He's like, oh, cigarettes. Do you guys remember that scene? Because I could swear to God it was in there, and then they ended up cutting it for regular TV. I
have the movie, and I now that you mentioned it, I don't recall exactly. I don't want to say it wasn't in there, but if it was in there, my family would have been commenting every single year about the fact that it's in there. Anytime there's something politically incorrect or that's just changed, we're watching Die Hard 2. We're just noting, okay, restaurants used to be right next to the terminal where you could go. You didn't have to go through security, and you could smoke cigarettes out in public. And there was actually Christmas trees at an airport. So we would have noticed. So, but I mean, it's possible that it was in the film version and they cut it out at some point, because they've done that with other films. Probably because some parent group back then was complaining about it, so they just said it's not worth the hassle.
Well, see, because I know when it's been on like TBS and all of that kind of stuff, it's not there. But I could swear to God there was one point, and this would have been a long time ago, like back in the 90s, not too long after the film came out type of thing. I saw it on cable, and I could swear there was this scene where Dad's sitting on the couch, and it was either right before the bowling ball or right after it, when the wife turns and goes, oh, this is from the boys, and hands him this rectangle, and he opened, he's like, oh, what did Ralphie and get to me this year? Oh, cigarettes. And I was just like, oh, that's awesome.
It sounds like something that you would see in there.
Yeah, given that this film was supposed to be back in like the 50s or the 60s or something.
I think late 50s,
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's funny.
And yeah, it would be
probably
considered
go on. You
historical
could probably go on
Well-
YouTube and find that scene.
Yeah. Well, what's great? Well, you can also find out if they deleted that scene.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of films. For example, I have the Alamo with John Wayne on. It came out in the 1960s. I have the DVD version of that, but I also have a special version that my grandparents recorded on TV on a VHS that has all these different scenes that they cut out from the film version. So it adds length to it, but you would never know because they don't really talk about those scenes that were cut out. But it helps explain a lot of parts of the movie where there's stuff that you're like, where did they come from? Or what happened to this person? Yeah, where did this person, what happened to them? Well, they got shot. That's why. And that scene got cut out. So it's interesting how films, they'll do that where they'll edit stuff. And it's almost the same thing with books. Some authors would edit their books constantly after they came out. And you kind of like, oh, I don't know, George Lucas.
Yeah, no kidding.
That pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Or maybe something classic. It is indeed classic.
Yeah, speaking of kids buying their dad's cigarettes for Christmas, it kind of reminds me of how much things have really changed for at least since my grandparents' generation, where the number of things that you cannot buy without an ID or you can't buy as a child. I remember back when I was a kid, and I'm sure you guys, since you're all senior citizens listening to it, is that I could go to the store, buy some cough syrup, and then come back home. If I was picking it up from my parents. Well, now you got to show freaking ID to buy anything, and then they started changing it to where the Sudafed, you had to go get it like unlocked, like it was liquor.
Oh yeah,
because people were cooking meth or doing whatever with it, and so
it's ridiculous.
And now you can't do anything now without an ID. Pretty much.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, guys were enlisting at 15, and now we're carding for cough syrup. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's what kills me. I was actually just reading this book. I got over there. I might grab it in a second, but reading this book about cowboys, and the book's it's very well written and it's entertaining, but it's also very practical. It's saying this is what it was actually like to be a cowboy. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that it was saying that is really fascinating is he said most of these cowboys were in their teens and 20s. The oldest might be the person who's leading the cattle drive, and he'd be 30 at the oldest for the most part. Whereas you watch all these films like John Wayne or any of these TV shows that have the cattle drives and it's all adults. No, they were all a bunch of kids, a couple of 20-year-olds, and maybe at the oldest you'd have a 30-year-old. So so a cattle drive would involve cowboys, none of whom were older than me. I'd be the oldest. I'd be the old breed. Kind of like during the Pacific Campaign in World War II, where they called the old breed with men still in their late 20s, because they were all in their early 20s. And so the things that they were were expected to do, I think that were expected of them at that age, the responsibilities they had compared to now, right? We had teens fight a world war against the greatest military on the planet, yet now they can't even buy a beer. They can't even get a Coors Light.
Why would you want to? And
then we turn around and wonder why they act like Peter Pan man-child. Well,
that's all that's left. I mean,
that's what you expect them. You expect them to be. You expect a 20-year-old to be incapable of buying a Coors Light without the government. They think that he's not mature enough. But at age 20 in 1940, he'd be considered mature enough to go and fight a war against the enemy.
If I think historically speaking, the word teenager didn't exist until well after World War II.
It was the 50s.
Yeah,
it was the 50s when
you had that was almost a rite of passage then for those boys at that time.
Well, another thing that's interesting is my community doesn't have a high school anymore, but it has all the stuff. They burned to the ground, but they have all this old stuff from the graduation stuff.
What? And that's a story by itself. It burned to the ground. It
burned to the ground, 40 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But they have the graduation photos, and so back in the day, kids would dress up to be like adults, right? Mm-hmm. They would try to emulate adult behavior, whereas now we have adults trying to emulate children, and then we have millennials taking adulting classes or something like that.
Adulting classes? Is that it says adulting in the title of the class?
Yeah. I will put
dumbest
one
thing.
second. 1 second. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna pull
You
it
have
up.
to share that because we have to see that. That's like what? That word should not be in anyone's lexicon at all. Just no.
No kidding.
Come on.
Where did it? Who was it? A millennial that started that word, or
Probably.
where was it? Adulting clause. I had the link. I'll find it later. But they you can go if you go Google it, you'll figure it out. But they learn how to act like an adult, and so
Jesus.
that's where I think the struggle is with a lot of. And how does this have to do with masculine geek stuff? Because I think for adults back, so many years ago, doing stuff that was a little childish was okay because it happened so. Like you were 99% of the time you were expected to act like an adult. You had all these responsibilities. You had to be very mature and all this other stuff. So that when you did act like a kid, it was kind of seen as taking a break for 1 second. Whereas now, being an adult,
like Rolstonian report
like,
just says, it'll be a major in colleges sooner than later. Adulting 101.
Fuck.
Stupid.
I need to go write that down as a horror story, like a short story type thing, where a kid the current year 2030.
I was about to say 2030. Yeah, the adulting 101.
1 second. Well, no, I'll grab it later.
So cooking.
You can pull it off the chat later. This is all saved.
I'll say it again.
You could take it back, go back to the chat and look at it later. It's all saved.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so good.
We have a lot of good stuff in the beginning of this chat.
Very good. Yeah. No, that's crazy. It's so I think that's a challenge for guys who are trying to pursue geek stuff that our dads or grandparents would have looked at and thought was fun, but it's almost trying to act mature is to be a rebel now, and especially emotionally mature, saying you know how to handle setbacks, you know how to handle people who are rejecting you or saying no to stuff, people who are not doing exactly what you want them to do, really just not acting like when we use the term childish, somebody who has unrealistic expectations in the world.
Yes, that's true. I'll send you the link again, Sam, in the Twitter DM to you, so it's fresh in the message box there. Hang on. There we go. Clues. There we go. I'm sorry, TJ. What did you say?
Oh no, I was just. As far as the majors, it'll cost you $50,000, and then you can become an adult.
Can you even imagine?
Get a master's in adulting.
The ridiculousness of it's like the movie Idiocracy is slowly coming to pass.
Idiocracy is a retroactive documentary.
Oh my god!
Oh boy!
Unbelievable.
Honk honk.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
I had to explain that to Aaron. He's like, TJ, what does honk honk mean? And I go, dude, you gotta follow like what's going on with this stuff. Sorry, that was another buddy.
Actually, I don't even know what that means. Enlighten me. What is that?
It's just the common saying now. Whenever we see stuff, instead of getting outraged, we just say we live in clown world. Honk honk.
Gotcha. The clown.
Like
horn.
no. It's what else? It kind of reminds me of that line from Guns of Navarone where David Nevin says, "Sorry, but if I didn't crack a joke from time to time, I'd go out of my mind." Because he just sees the absurdity of war or the absurdity of what they're doing, and so he's always making these stupid jokes. But he just says, I'm doing this to preserve my sanity. Because what can you do at a certain point when we do have adulting majors and masters in adulting, and we have adulting experts and adulting advisors? What is a normal man supposed to say to that other than just honk honk? That's all you say, and then you just move on with the rest of your day, right?
The ridiculously of it,
It's either that or you stock up on the bourbon.
Or both.
What else are you gonna do?
You what?
Oh, just what else are you gonna do?
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on a second.
So I guess Rob, do you when you do cigars, how often or at all do you do like a bourbon or a whiskey? Kind of like if you go to a cigar lounge and they get the cigar and then you get a drink or whatever.
Mostly when I add bourbon or whiskey into the mix is usually when it's at a cigar lounge or if because I don't have any whiskey or bourbon here, because either A, I drank it already, I need to stop that, or it's more of a, for me, it's more social at that point. And so if I have company over and we're going to have cigars, somebody typically brings whiskey or bourbon with them. And so that's usually when I do it, because, and I know I've talked about it before, probably one of the early episodes, is me and whiskey or bourbon for that matter, just drinking it without a cigar, it does not get along with me at all. That I've found just by random chance, basically, that if I smoke a cigar and drink it, I'm okay. If I just drink it, yeah, it's not a good day.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's because when I was 16 and my dad decided, let's go deer hunting. All right. And so we go out with, I go out with my dad and a bunch of his friends, and it was just one big drunk fest up on the mountain. And there was a guy, his name was Wayne, and he called it horns of corn, is what he called it.
Horns of corn. Yeah,
he'd say, have a horn of corn. And he'd have these glasses that were probably about where my finger is here on this glass. Okay. And he'd fill it to that line, because these weren't just shots. These were glasses of whiskey, or, like a plastic cup of whiskey. Jeez. And it was probably the equivalent of, like, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 shots. And he'd be like, here, and he'd be passing them around to anyone and everyone that would want one. And I was a dumbass and, took it and shot it down and didn't even flinch. No grimace, no shake of the head, no nothing. And he was like, well, that's what he said, basically. He was like, oh my God. And so he's, calling to my dad, and he's like, you got to see what your kid can do. Watch this. And he pours me another one, and I shoot it down, and my dad just kind of looks at me and shakes his head. Well, 4 of those later, hey, there's Sam.
Hey, Sam.
Hey. Hey.
Good to see you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, good. Good.
Excellent. All right. Everyone, welcome Sam Botta, the voice of Rational Male. He is here. Very cool. Everything set on your end?
How's the week been?
Finally here in New Jersey, after 4 days of constant rain, we've had some sun. So I got out on the motorcycle right before our show. So it was nice. How about you?
So welcome to Orlando. Yeah.
You're right.
Orlando. Been here since the 21 convention, and every day I think I'm going to leave.
Wow.
What's that?
Do you want me to manage your YouTube comments or something?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, do you want me? I don't know. Is it on my computer?
It's right here.
All right.
You can use yours. I am blessed with, yes, sir, with wonderful people here.
Cool.
To help me out. Yeah. So I got a call in the hyperbaric chamber. Okay. Someone was knocking on the door to the hotel room, telling me it's time, and being in the hyperbaric chamber, I can't hear the door.
Oh, okay.
And, anyway, I sincerely apologize, but I'm glad that y'all are here.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and thanks for being here. We appreciate you joining us.
You're gonna have to get the computer set up stationary on that table.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get the computer over here.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent. Hello to the person in the background. Cool.
And then just sit back and relax. I'll adjust the screen so I can see you.
Okay.
Sit back and relax. Get comfortable. All right. And just talk like you're having a good time.
All right.
Excellent.
A man with huge muscles just moved the couch.
Nice.
All right.
Cool.
Well, hey, that looks like one of Ivan Throne's cigars.
No, I still need to actually get one. I need an Impeliador. This is not anything like it.
Well, I don't smoke cigars, but there's nothing like the cigars from Ivan Throne.
Okay, that's good to know. I think I'll add that to my list.
Same here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent.
So, Vincent, you've got another book coming out. I want to know about this.
I do. Well, it's like I said, we were talking briefly. The edits are done. I want to add one more final action scene just to round out the 3/4 mark. And after that, I'm going to work with my book cover artist, Adam Baker, get light a fire under his butt. And I'd like to have this book out this summer. So, which is in a couple months. So that's next. TJ as well is working on a novella.
Yeah.
So he's got that role. Yeah.
Well, we need this desperately, especially now.
Right.
And I wish I could take credit for that train sound.
I think that's my train.
No, we really need it now. We are in desperate times. After these decades, I am telling you with authority, the things they've gotten a lot worse, even in the last 2 years, especially since 50 Shades of Grey came out. But I'm telling you, it's going to get drastically worse. And you've seen all these different blogs being removed. WordPress is a part of the game now of removing content. Chateau Artiste, even though we can all agree that the content there after Royce sold it off, content became, for lack of a better term, racist in a lot of ways and too political. But still, WordPress is doing what everybody else is. They're taking the liberties to just ban you if you're not saying the right things. If you're not saying
we've noticed that, yeah,
what matches the Hollywood script.
Right.
Yeah, that's growing increasingly apparent, especially with if you're watching anything on social media, Facebook, it doesn't matter where you're at, you see it.
Right.
Yeah.
But
which is what makes the fact that y'all are writing novels so important, because this is a gap. It's a free for all. It's wide open for what you're doing. We need more and more of it, because there just aren't people like you writing what you're writing.
Yeah, this is ground floor stuff, actually. So and the sky's the limit. There's nothing holding us back. So
right.
So with y'all's books, when you're thinking about the person that's reading it, who is that person?
Yeah.
Masculine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I grew up reading about, very masculine men in a lot of novels. And so that's actually what got me into writing when I was younger. I kept noticing that I didn't like the men, or didn't admire the men that I saw, whether it was on TV or in books. And so rather than just complain about it like a lot of people do, I decided to write my own. And one of my big inspirations is the Guns of Navarone, Ice Station Zebra, Where Eagles Dare type men who are almost have superhuman powers because of their sheer willpower to do something and get something done, and nothing phases them. And those kind of men who are going to go get the job done. And so I think that the type of men we see now in a lot of entertainment is the exact opposite. They're men who are broken, who've lost their vision for what they're trying to do, their ambition or their goals. It's always what somebody else is getting them to do.
And they're dying off.
Yeah,
and they're dying off and being replaced with women.
Right. Like with Han Solo. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So. And Sam, we also have some questions for you. I mean, regarding your history as an amazing narrator. How did you get started in this industry?
Yeah.
What led you to become the voice of the rational male?
Well, it all started with those trips to Walt Disney World as a kid. I mean, I was just fascinated with all the voices and the attractions. We didn't watch much TV when we were kids. And I'm extremely thankful to my parents for not allowing us to be exposed to lots of food with sugar and all the rest of it. So we were kind of sheltered when we were little kids from TV and even most of the movies that were out there. So for me, my first exposure to all the voice acting work was just being in Walt Disney World. And then in 1981, when Epcot opened, my parents brought us there for my birthday, and they didn't have much money, and they'd saved up for years for that particular trip to Epcot. And there's this attraction that has drastically changed over the years. I think it may still be Ellen's Energy Adventure, but it used to be called the Universe of Energy, and it was sponsored by Exxon. And that at that point, my voice acting dream, which had begun when I was 7, from coming to the parks, changed to wanting to be more of a narrator and network TV promo voice, which is what I've built the better part of my career doing.
Gotcha.
And so, so when I died from the hit and run accident, had a stroke, you know, I was one of the busiest people doing what I do in the industry. And all of a sudden, it was all over. My talent agent told me early on that if you never smoke, never drink, or do illegal drugs, you'll get the work you want for the rest of your life. And, you know, it was beautiful all those years, but it was, I was really busy. It was getting kind of crazy. And just in 1 second, everything changed. And I was dead. And then because of friends that I had made, I was brought back to life, put in inpatient care. And inpatient care that's very rare. Not many of them know what to do when you've had a stroke. But this place was world-class, and they were really patient with me to bring me through everything, having to learn to do everything all over again. And, you know, the industry had stopped sending me work, stopped hearing from my talent agent, and the other people, you know, that were involved on the team in my career. And that was pretty devastating. And I found Rollo Tomasi on his first blog post. And so I had communicating with him. I had been in the comments a lot. And so after I was killed by the hit and run driver, friends of mine hired people to be me online. So there are probably thousands of comments that appear to be me because they went through years of stuff online and they emulated me on everything online so that it looked like that not much had happened to me. And even my parents were kept from knowing everything that had happened. And at the time, you know, that was a good thing. But then after I got better, you know, sometimes you wish that they had known all that you'd been through. But anyway, Rollo Tomasi, he gave me a chance that the industry couldn't risk giving me. And I don't blame the industry. I mean, you know, before I could go in the studio and nail it, you got to nail it every time. I mean, it's fun and you got a little leeway, but it was beautiful to be able to go in the studio and nail it every time. And I turned down interviews all the time like this. And this is the first one that I have chosen to accept just because of the new things that I'm doing with all the oxygen. But it's because my brain just, like going in the studio and nailing it, my brain doesn't function that well, even on interviews like this anymore. But anyway, Rollo, being reared in the Bible Belt, I still receive messages from people that I was reared around that tell me I'm going to hell for the work that I did in Hollywood. And now that I'm using my real name for the first time in my life, I never thought that narrating the Rational Male audiobooks would bring a similar kind of heat for people basically telling me I'm going to hell. But the fact is that Rollo has done exactly what Jesus Christ in the Bible would tell people to do. Jesus hung around with the worst people on the earth. I mean, the tax collectors were the worst possible people, no morals at all, but he hung out with them. And I mentioned at the 21 convention a couple of weeks ago that the first place we find Jesus in the Bible and his ministry was at this huge party. It was a wedding, and all the powerful people in the land were there. And their most notable words at this massive wedding party were that, dude, you brought the top shelf alcohol. This is the stuff that only people like this nice gentleman sitting over here next to me can afford, right? And you waited until we're all drunk and we can't enjoy the benefits of this top shelf alcohol. And so that gained him a reputation. But that's what Rollo is doing. His writing is intentionally worldly. The F words and the P words are intentionally in there so as to not isolate the audience. So in my career, I have never used the F word. Nothing that I've ever done, no network TV promo even, has had the F word. But I have done it. And the only people giving me a hard time about it are Christians. Now, after dying many times, I am closer to God than I've ever been in my life. But it's a shame that Christians don't understand that their job, our job, is to bring in the kingdom of God. And to do that, we can't hide out in a megachurch somewhere. We have to be love, but we also have to be strength.
What was your favorite part of?
Good.
Oh, I was curious. What was your favorite chapter in The Rational Male to do the voiceover for?
There's so much in there. For me, it was when parts like these different sentences in there that just blow the mind. Like, you cannot negotiate genuine desire.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that I started narrating that the first time, I narrated that audiobook 4 times, but I narrated that audiobook a phrase at a time because I couldn't say normal words. And so I had caregivers and coaches next to me. And we figured it up, and there are over 2,000 hours of recording that were chiseled. The 14-hour final product was chiseled out of more than 2,000 hours of recording because we're repeating it. So that and trying to do something that was so natural before, trying to do character voices. There are, a couple of places in there where, you had to kind of be in character and not just, I lost my ability to do that. I lost my ability to act. And so I really enjoyed the part where he's writing his dating profile, saying, I'm a prince.
Yep.
Because every woman on all the online dating sites are, basically saying I'm a princess. Yep. And so that was a lot of fun. Then trying to imitate Roosh, because back then, I don't know if it's just me, but my memory of hearing Roosh talk back then was of him sounding like he had a severe accent. And so I was trying to have his severe accent. And as it turns out, he, listening to him now, I don't really hear much of an accent.
No, not at all.
So that was a lot of fun because I the first read of that, I made him sound like Captain Hook. Wow.
Was there, you were asking us about if we thought of a particular person when we wrote our books. were you thinking of a particular type of person when you were doing the voice? As if, who were you speaking to when you were audio recording the Rational Mail?
That's a good question. Yeah.
It's a great question. Yeah, it's every man in the mega churches who is living in misery because he's done everything right. He's worked his tail off. He's making good money by the world standards. He's making well above average. And she resents him. And they even go to counseling, Christian counseling. And, he comes home after working, and she's been working. And he's lucky that he makes $10,000 more a year than her. Because if she made equal to him or more, she would lord it over him even more. It's the men that I have kept in touch with over the years that are Christians that I grew up with, and went to college with. And they knew that I never changed from, deep inside, I'm still that shy guy that was the fattest guy in my grade of 500 people until I was in 7th grade. And so they would reach out to me, and I would hear their pain. And it's that guy. So she resents him. He does more around the house and does more around the yard. He does everything, but nothing works. And she, because she resents him, she talks negatively about him to the kids. And he's living an existence where he thought that sex before marriage was wrong because, like me, he waited for marriage for sex. A lot of these guys, I did. I was 30 because I thought God was going to cut my penis off, and I thought that God would take my success away. But that's the guy that I have in mind, and he's getting out of shape, and he's aging substantially faster than he should, just because he's doing everything mainly to please her, because she considers him the most lucky man on the planet when she chooses to have sex with him once every 2.5 weeks, if he buys her whatever she wants, and if he does these 30 things for the kids. Now, it sounds like I'm negative about women. I have the most wonderful, patient girlfriend who has put up with so much. Me being in and out of inpatient care and hospital after hospital. I love women, and being reared a large part of my childhood by a single mom, I have the ultimate empathy and compassion for single moms. But I'm just speaking to the way that things are. And from a perspective in Hollywood, I'm speaking to the way that Hollywood creates culture. Make no mistake, it is the culture that we have today is normalized. And we can talk about this more later, and I hope that we will. But if I don't remember it, please remind me of the name Joseph Goebbels for later.
TJ will. Yep.
Nazi Germany. And there were 2 other things that he made speeches about and mesmerized people, and they came into being. I got that from Ivan Throne.
Oh, do you have a question, Vince?
I was going to say, you just mentioned Ivan Throne. You're doing the audiobook for the 9 Laws, are you not?
Yes, we're done with that.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
But
excellent.
But because of me repeating myself, between 5 and 50 times per phrase or sentence in these audiobooks. The Castalia House, they've been extremely generous, overly generous. And so their editor is used to receiving these productions that are where they don't have to edit more than 3 or 4 reads of each line. But it's substantially more than that. So we're just about done editing it, and we expect that to come out in about 3 weeks, or at least to be able to hand it over to them in about 3 weeks.
Okay, excellent.
That's
we're looking forward to
one
that.
powerful book.
Yeah, it is. I've got a hard copy.
Yeah, I've got a hard copy and the digital, and I'm sitting on pins and needles waiting for this audio version.
Yes.
I guess as far as you know, from all your voice recordings, what was your favorite type of voice recording to do? Were you, before when you were doing before you did the Martinell audiobooks, what were some other things that you did that you were really proud of, that you thought was really kind of where you were at the top of your game?
Network TV promos, and contractually I can't talk about my favorite ones or any or all the ones that I did. That was one of the beauties is I had mentors early on that told me not to use my real name and never to be on camera unless, you know, it's just fun stuff in my real name, because it would keep me from the heat of having pressure to, let's just say, live a lifestyle that is just not compatible with who I am. And I, you know, most of them are dead now, but you could call them the old guard in Hollywood, who had seen everything, experienced everything, and watched what happens to people. It's not fame that causes a lot of the horrible things that you hear about to happen necessarily. It's just when you have that fame, there are expectations, and those are expectations that you don't want. And I talked to a lot of teenagers, and they're all ready to just do whatever it takes for fame. And just in my experience and the people that I worked around over the years, fame is not something that you want or that I want.
I guess what advice would you give to someone who would want to become a voice actor like yourself? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, especially someone young.
But if you want to go big with it, the bottom line is you may not be the most talented person in the world. Most people there aren't, but you just have to outwork everybody else, and you have to learn how the system works and what and who is really in control. There are ways in that are not obvious to people, and you know, anybody that wants to try their hand at it should go to Central Casting and just start being an extra, because you can make $600 to $1,000 a day as an extra, which not only pays the rent, pays for groceries at Trader Joe's, will buy you a used 20-year-old Lexus, but it will also fund you getting all the acting training that you need. And I've got a bunch of coaches, but I found that if you want to do novels, narrate novels, or do network TV promos, or do video games, even some of the super difficult character voices. The best coach in the world is Pat Fraley. Pat, last name Fraley. I would immediately, like if you're a teenager, I would ask for Christmas gift. I would ask for as much training as your parents can afford from Pat Fraley. And you can go look him up online, go to his website, and pick up as many courses as possible. And he has two options with those courses. One of the options is you're doing a self-study, and he gives you exercises, and you do those on your own. It's sort of a self-taught thing. But the better way to do it, and it's usually, it'll be $200 for the self-taught courses, or $100 more for him sending you things to read, and then you record them at home, send them back, and then he critiques, sends them back to you as you re-record them, and then you do that 2 more times with each of these reads that he gives you.
Gotcha.
It's just there's just nobody better in the world, and that's another thing about the industry. There's so many agencies that say they're going to get you places,
Right.
but it's just really not going to happen. You really need a Pat Fraley, and I'm so thankful that early on I was introduced to him, because he's one of the most generous and kind people in the industry. And if you really want to make it as a voice actor, he's the first stop, and he's honest. So.
Gotcha. I'm curious about your own voice. Yeah, did you always have this type of voice, or did you have to work on it? Because I know that actors like Clark Gable started out with a high-pitched voice, and they had to work on him deepening his voice so he sounded more masculine. Was that the same with you, or was your voice just naturally the way it is right now?
My mom told me that I didn't talk until I think I was almost 2. And first thing I said was a sentence. And my dad had this old car. It was a 60s car that was just hanging around. It's Alabama, so like Jeff Foxworthy says, people have a washing machine out in the yard that's all rust out and everything. We had a car out front, and my dad called it the gunboat. And the first thing that I said was to my brother. I said, "Get out of my gunboat!" And my mom, like deep into voice to say that. So yeah, I had it as a kid, but being reared in a small town in Alabama, you have this super strong Southern accent. So my parents couldn't afford the training, so I just started recording on cassette tape,
Oh, wow.
voices, and I just would obsessively, while everybody else was out, playing ball, I was in my bedroom recording and emulating.
That's great.
And recording myself and trying to emulate those voices.
That's cool. Yeah, I guess what's been your experience with people who hear that kind of voice? Do you feel like it has an influence over people, like the different types of voices conveys a different type of emotion, or gets people to react differently to what, and do you incorporate that to whatever you're trying to do a narration of? So if you were going to do a different type of audience for a book, what would determine whether you did it more of a, say, gentle or less deep tone, and more a little bit higher up?
That is, your questions are just, you need to do right questions for a living. I mean, it's extraordinary. That is a great question. I just have the ultimate empathy for whatever it is. Like doing network TV promos, people think that it's just, okay, you go in there with your deep voice and just do it. But no, it's a thing. And I know that I see it in your eyes. You have that kind of empathy that they say most men don't have, but I believe most men do have it in them. But you have that kind of empathy. So if it's a network TV promo, and there's an emotional, you can tell that it's an emotional part. I shift gears, and I think about my mom back when I was in high school, and how she was working so hard and struggling. So I just I put myself in the shoes of, like, for instance, my mom. And then if it's something that has to be more confident, I just put myself in the shoes of somebody that is ridiculously confident, like Steve the Dean Williams, or Ivan Throne, or Bobby Dino. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's
No, that's great. Yeah. I guess, is there any books that if you had the time to do and wanted to do, that you would do them, and it could be any book that's, maybe it's older, or a book that you're hoping somebody writes, like a type of book, a book that you hope is written someday that you can do the narration for.
So one of my closest friends is Scott Brick. He's narrated, I think, 800 books now for Random House, and I think that the majority of the people these days that have absorbed Atlas Shrugged, for instance, they absorbed it because he narrated it. I mean, it's a long read, and but Justin Cronin's books, beginning with The Passage, which is now a TV series, that's the kind of book that I would want to narrate, except I would change the characters and have it more, have the characters more like what you would write, because that's where the need is now, because everything is written to destroy masculinity today.
Right.
And so I would do that, but I would, if the dream book were out there, it would be something that was a trilogy as powerful as that, with such a variety of characters and the changes in the characters over time.
Right.
I mean, I think these books need to be written. And one of my favorite things about these books is just the empathy that Justin Cronin has for the characters, and how he gets inside the head of children and of women like no one I've ever read in my life.
So I'm curious on your thoughts on this. What do you think makes audiobooks and hearing a book being spoken much more powerful than reading it? It's almost as though they need somebody to tell them something rather than them reading it. And especially with a book with so much, I think, enlightening stuff as the Rational Male stuff. What do you think? How much more powerful is it for someone to hear someone speaking those words to them, and the impact that may have that just reading those words may not have?
It depends on the person. I mean, most women that I talk to would tell you that they like to read because, well, they like to feel the book in their hands. But of course, Kindle has changed that. But they like to read and hear each character in their own voice. And I'll give you an example. I did some work on 50 Shades of Grey, not the audiobooks or any of that, but a totally different realm that I can't talk about. But I had something to do with which voice actor was chosen to narrate those audiobooks. And they chose Becca Bateau because she was known for reading children's books, and she's quite prolific in narrating children's books. So her voice is the voice of a 12-year-old girl, sometimes a 7-year-old girl. And so women, the 50 Shades of Grey, the first book in the trilogy, 150 million units sold. No book in the history of the world has ever sold that many and so fast. But they chose her voice because the Christian woman listening to those audiobooks, she sees herself as a young virgin. And so her voice, sounded like a 12-year-old, was the voice that the Christian woman had in her head, maybe when she was 19, a virgin in college. And so that, repeat the question, please. I'm getting somewhere with this.
We were talking about, but you actually brought up a really good point. Actually, if it's okay, I want to ask that question. Is that really fascinating that when they're doing an audiobook, they're selecting the type of person and their background of doing other audiobooks, and people almost have the same mental picture in their head. So how much does that go into what it says about a person, that like the intent of whoever's choosing the audiobook voice, like what they're trying to convey through that? But picking someone who usually does 12-year-old voices is very telling when they pick that person to do an audiobook like 50 Shades of Grey. So, I mean, what can a person deduce from the voice about what the author is trying to say that may not actually be written down in the book? Something that you can infer just by the voice, like the type of voice, not necessarily the voice written down, but the audio voice.
Yeah, so like in 50 Shades of Grey's example, they've never done this before, but her voice was too much like a child, so it was getting complaints from women because they were hearing their daughter's voice, which is not good. And so they took her voice, literally slowed it down, and ran a bunch of audio processing on it to make her voice much deeper.
Interesting.
So you're asking, does the choice of the person narrating it, does the author choose somebody based on what they're trying to convey? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Because a lot of times the book itself may not have, you can offer as much description as you want. Some books don't do that. They're more minimalistic in what they offer. So when they're choosing the voice, there's a lot of character that can be conveyed in the voice.
There's more impact with the voice, is what you're saying.
Right. Like think of Kevin Conway as Batman in Batman the Animated Series. It's very, even it would be great even if it was a radio show, you wouldn't have to see what he physically looked like because the voice carried on that almost visual picture. And so how much of that can someone read into when they're listening to an audiobook and they're hearing the different voices on that?
It's everything. The first time I listened to Atlas Shrugged, the guy that was super famous that narrated The earlier versions of Atlas Shrugged, me personally, I couldn't get through it. And a narrator can make or break an audiobook. There's a book that somebody told me about a long time ago called Shibumi by Trevania. And Joe Barrett narrated that. And, even though Scott Brick is a super close friend, if he had narrated that book, it just wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same book.
Right.
It wouldn't have had the same power. It wouldn't have had the same attitude. The main characters would not have had the same attitude.
Right.
And you're, I don't remember the first way you asked the question, but the bottom line is that women tend to like to hear the voices in their head, which is why they read, and why even on in Lori Gottlieb's book, in one of her chapters, she talks about how women across the board on dating sites, if a guy says on a dating site that he listened to a book, a lot of women, they'll like mark the guy off, move on, because, well, he didn't read books. He just, listens to them. But
Right.
For people like me, I get more out of it I absorb so much more when I listen than when I am reading it, especially now after the stroke.
Right.
But it's always been that way. Some people just absorb a lot more by listening than reading. And you're right. The narrator can. The narrator makes all the difference in the world.
Right. It's interesting you were saying about just now how you get a lot more when you hear something being said, because in a lot of civilizations and cultures, the stories were first told, and in most, I would say, through someone speaking. You'd have the storyteller who would get in front, and their whole purpose and part of the tribe was to memorize these stories and myths and tales, and they would probably work very hard on developing the right voice. And so in a lot of ways, we're almost going back to that, where we're not reading these stories, we're hearing them. And so I thought that was really interesting how that's becoming more and more popular. I think it's also because people are so busy that they can't just do one thing at once. But my original question was, with books that are available, like The Rational Male and others that are in print, but also in audio, is there something about hearing those words that has more power for the person listening than if they were just reading it? As if it's, that voice, like you were saying, it's like a friend or somebody speaking to them, telling them the stuff that they've been trying to hear or they've been looking for.
Well, I'll use this example. I'm humbled because I didn't write The Rational Male. But like Rollo, I get comments now that I'm using my real name and I'm very easily accessible. I get comments, I get messages constantly from men telling me the same stories they tell Rollo, that had you not narrated that, I would have killed myself. And people tell me that part of it is that they could feel that I feel those words, because I do. Because not only was that man, all these men that have come to me over the years in pain, but I was that man, being a virgin until I was married at 30. I lost a lot of girlfriends just because I wouldn't put out. And it's just, as a beta, the majority of my life, I through each of these books, I feel every bit of it. I mean, if you've been around the caregivers, coaches that were with me, you'd know that there were whole sections of these books where I just start crying because I was there, and I know that pain, and I want you, the person listening, to understand that I feel that pain, because ultimately, there's the ultimate hope, because everything will turn around if you just become that man that Rollo and Ivan and the rest of you that are great authors are talking about.
Wow. Yeah, that's great stuff. Vince, Rob, did you have any questions? Well, I was going to step back for a little bit. I've been asking most of the questions.
We know greatness when we hear you're on fire. This is really good. I mean, you're completely, keep going, DJ.
Those are kind of the main questions I had. Oh, I know. So you want us to bring up Gobbles.
Oh,
the German guy.
Yeah, Joseph Goebbels. So Ivan told me this last night, and I'd heard this before, but there was some event that was all the dignitaries in Europe. Everybody was there, and he said, I'm going to give you 3 speeches. And you're not going to like any of it, but you're going to be mesmerized. I think this is how he told the story. So he told the story of there's going to be a dictator and blah, blah, blah. And it was Hitler. And this was all before the war that came into being. And then there's going to be this communist nightmare, Soviet Union. And the third thing I cannot remember, that it came into being. But the moral of the story is this guy is like the ultimate PR king of the world. Like nobody has ever been better in history. And the whole point of that is that anybody that has this mesmerizing presence and the voice that can grab people, they can convince anybody of anything and prove to them that it is the most wonderful thing in the world, even though everything about them is diabolically opposed to it. They can mesmerize in that way. And what Ivan Throne was explaining to me last night was that is what we need as men. We need more people, more men that can have that presence and mesmerize, because that is what we're up against in the world today.
It's almost as though there's a voice, a powerful voice can be used for good or evil. So just as you're offering it in audio, there's also other voices that can be just as persuasive, but down a different path. And that men need to be aware of that and know where it's going to take them.
Yeah. It's like Cirque du Soleil. Most people have seen at least one show. Like when they go to Las Vegas, they'll see one of the Cirque du Soleil shows. I chose to see 3 of the shows, each 7 times in Las Vegas. And every time I saw each of those shows, I got a different thing out of them. Cirque du Soleil is a very powerful entertainment media. And it touches people in different ways. And every one of those productions has so much embedded in it that affects culture, that creates culture. Because that is, getting back to Joseph Goebbels, that's what we are in. We are in a world that is run by what I call the culture creation industry. And that is one of the reasons that people are like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, that accident. But I don't see it as something that I'm sorry for, or that is a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing, because being on the level I was at in Hollywood, I was starting to really see that it is culture creation for the entire world. And it's not just the content we see on TV, not just the music we hear, not just the majority of the popular books and all the content that is popular. It's clothing, it's the carpet in the hotel room, it's the shows on television, all the cooking shows that influence everybody being a foodie and consuming more cancer-causing food than ever. I mean, sugar is cancer food, bottom line. And even the shows, there's so many shows about shopping for a house, shopping for a condo, and redoing properties and all this, and it's all beautiful. But if you look now, even in this hotel room, which I think was modeled 4 years ago, the countertops everywhere are quartz, and that's a direct result of the shows. And if you're looking at houses now, you go in and people turn their nose up to granite, when granite was the in thing, and
Right.
the super expensive. Everybody wanted it, but that's where we are, and that's why I keep coming back to you, because what you're writing is the only hope. I mean, how many of you are there that are writing novels that are creating culture as the world, that the way that you see it ought to be? I mean, if you look at all the popular books, the most popular books, they're rarely going to be these books. And I just think that as men, it is our responsibility to spread the word about content creators and their content, like yours, that literally changes the world and creates culture the way that it should be, as opposed to the path that we're heading down now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're hoping for, is that when we see stuff like what's going on around us, there's a lot of people who want to just get outraged about it. They want to rant about it. They want to complain about it, rather than looking at that and using that as inspiration to create our own content and our counter narrative, a narrative that's going a separate way, that's saying that our future is going to be different from the one that they're telling us is going to be our future. One in which masculinity is celebrated and preserved, rather than destroyed and replaced with servitude.
Yeah, and that's the mission statement behind Masculine Geek.
Yeah. Fix bayonets.
Fix bayonets. Yep. Hold the line. Hold the line.
Yeah.
And y'all really need to buckle up, because you're going to grow in popularity beyond your wildest dreams, because you're filling a gap that just doesn't exist anywhere. Y'all are men, but you're nice guys, and you're not using the F word every other word. And you're not on your different shows that I've seen, you're not negative about women and everything. Y'all have a positive bent on everything.
that was very key. All this turmoil, the negative turmoil that's swirling around us daily. We wanted to move away from that. Absolutely.
We're denying their power over this space.
Mm-hmm.
Their influence ends where our space begins, and
Well
so
said.
we're not going to let them influence us, affect us, or control what we say here. This is almost like a refuge for men who are trying to escape that toxicity that they're pumping in, and a place where they can actually get a chance to relax and hear about hope, frankly.
Yeah.
We've I know for me, and I've said it in other podcasts, we vote with your wallet for one, but now it's vote with your attention.
Yeah.
Don't give the crap attention, because if you do, they win basically, because then you're just spinning your wheels and you're distracted by what they are doing.
Yeah, and then nothing gets done.
Right.
Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're hoping that we take a lot of people who are complaining about stuff and turn them into those creators. So somebody who could be an illustrator, someone who could be a writer, someone who could do voiceover, someone who could do architecture. Like, we need men from all different walks, whatever their profession is. They need to inject this belief in masculinity into their work. Because it shows everywhere. Like you were just saying, it's everywhere. It's in the architecture of the house. It's in the exterior. It's in what the color of the carpet. It's in
the food.
It's in the food. Yeah. It completely saturates our life. And so, which narrative prevails is not just something that you can go hide away in your house. It's something that's going to be wherever you go.
Exactly. And I mean, there's not a surface or a thing or anything that you hear or see that is not influenced in that way. And so I just think that it is every man's responsibility to create content. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter how many views you get on YouTube. It just matters that you're putting it out there.
That you start. Yeah.
Because the time is short. The time is up. We're, all this nonsense, all these hashtags, time's up. We need to take those and turn them on their head. Because we have the power. We are bigger in numbers than the side that is led to the utter catastrophe that we're living in.
The other thing is, their movements consume themselves because they ultimately turn on themselves, whereas we are going to build on each other, where one of us is going to be able to help out one other guy who will then help out another man, and then he helps out others, and it just grows and grows from that. And it's a sustainable thing because it's based on, frankly, just truth. It's based on something that's good fundamentally, and it's about celebrating something that's good, which is masculinity, as opposed to people who are bent on just destroying things out of hate. And that word gets thrown around a lot, but you look at their actions, and these are not people who are driven by love of something. They're driven by a hatred of just life and beauty.
So question is, how are we going to get full saturation of this content? And the 21 convention, it's wonderful, but it's 2 or 3 events a year. Anthony's doing a wonderful thing, but there are so few people that can take the time off, fly in, that can afford it. Right. And I think about this every day, and I think that one of the ways to infiltrate is to infiltrate the large churches. Begin with the large churches across the U.S. I know that the saturation of the rational male, for instance, is this much, and the men that I told you that I think about when I narrate Rollo's books they're those guys in those churches who are miserable. I mean, that's why the billboard says "sexless marriage?" ? And I mean, that's all it says. Sexless marriage ? the Rational Male Audible logo. And, last year I was in, last May I was told I had a year to live. And I was in dire straits because the royalties, I'm so thankful for them, but they were not high enough to cover the 300 pounds of medical equipment that I have in the other side of this hotel suite. And so I started praying about it, and that term sexless marriage hit me, because that applies to every guy that's in a long-term relationship, or even guys that aren't in a relationship, because that's their biggest fear in life. And so that quadrupled the royalties, which has made it possible for me to have the medical equipment that I have now. That is the reason that I'm still alive and improving, instead of being dead in a year.
Right. Yeah, no, that's I think where it just shows how true the message is, because it resonates so well with men who are being told. I think that's also the opportunity is, there's, like you're saying, there's so few men who will speak the truth on these things. And so anyone who does is just, the opportunity is just waiting there for anyone who's willing to pick it up. And you don't have to write the book. You can go carry on the message, you can spread it to whatever institution you're involved in, and just understand what kind of narrative and you're bringing to hope. You're not there to be speaking ill, but you're going to get hate towards you because, truth is treason in the empire of lies. That's just, speaking of 1984.
Yeah.
But y'all are so refreshing compared to the most of the rest of the manosphere space, because you're talking about all of these positive things. So I think that there should be events every week, twice a week. People, you can put together in your region, you can put together events of men that are just desperately hungry for this content. It's one thing to sit here watching on YouTube, but it's another thing to be surrounded by men. It empowers you. It makes you. It reminds you that you're a man, but it also empowers you because you feel like you're not alone.
Right.
That's so true.
So where's the best place to start? Where do we start doing that? How do we do that?
I think that what's going on right now is a good kind of springboard to look at, or a model. But I think that Rob's emphasized this a lot, and I agree with him, is so much of what's been going on has been online, which is where I think unusual levels of negativity can occur, just because it's the internet and people will speak differently they do in real life. Encouraging and almost forcing men to interact in real life is where the positivity is going to start where action is going to be occurring. Because I think when there's too much inaction, there's negativity that follows. And so when men start, I think that's the other thing, is men don't just want to talk about this stuff, they want to do something. And they get frustrated.
Nail on the head. Yep.
Right. So I guess, Rob, did you have any additional thoughts on that?
Well, the only thing I can kind of think of right now, and then it all starts with what Sam's been kind of talking about. It comes down to, and I like how he said, it doesn't matter how many views it gets or not. And I know all three of us have talked about it kind of pre-show, post-show, and it comes down to in a way, there's no one gonna save you but yourself. And so it's the man of one kind of thing, that each guy does his own thing, whether you're screaming into the void or not. When I started blogging, nobody saw my blog, and even now, I don't get a lot of traffic, but it's growing on its own, and I'm fine with that. I guess I'm leaving my footprint, so to speak, and people are finding it however they find it. And my next step, which is part of this Masculine Geek, but is also, I've been making arrangements like with you guys, that I'm going to be meeting people in real time, face to face. And I encourage that to any guy. I've wrote about it in the past, that it's like, start meeting these guys. Initially for me, it was about the fact that, number one, you could be deplatformed at any time. But what you've said, TJ, it is we're able to do stuff. And I'm hearing something in the background. But it's the idea that when you get a group of guys together, you can start brainstorming new ideas. You can come up with new things. You can kind of, for lack of better words, you can say, okay, I'm going to do this. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do this. Okay, cool. And you start kind of putting pieces together, and guys start going, okay, well, now I'm going to carry out this, and I'm going to go do that. And you spread the word. But it is doing it face to face. It's doing it in real time versus doing it just over the internet.
Well, so this is what I'm just going to butt in here and ask you for something. I don't know if you're watching live, and I don't know if it's 2 weeks or 2 years from now, but there's somebody watching right now that has a little influence in their community. And there's another person watching that has an influence in one of the larger churches in their region, like very large church. And if you do, this is what I am requesting of you, for all of us. Would you please do whatever it takes to open up the venue of your church and utilize your influence and your friends? Probably a lot of them are hurting, to convince the leaders of the church to have open doors and to schedule events where people like Ivan Throne and Bobby Dino and Hunter Drew and a long list of Christians, believers like you, can come in and help these men to turn their lives around. It's a paradigm shift. I mean, before people found this space, there was nothing. And now millions of men around the world have turned their lives around. And so I know that you don't want to blow up your opportunities at work. You want to be able to retire and not have everything taken away from you. But in your church, you have the ability to open those doors for even a Saturday night or a Sunday night thing where a bunch of men like these men hosting the Masculine Geek can come in and speak. Then you're building a community within the well-funded church. And then you end up with a groundswell. And eventually everything turns around. And I believe that is the fastest way to gain saturation of the content and of having men in regions and communities becoming closer friends and getting together. Men get together to do action. We don't get together like women do just to hang out and talk. We get together for a purpose, to do things. And so, and if you have better ideas than the church, places to meet, I mean, any community in the country, you can get free space at the public library. But I know that it is time for events to happen every week, probably 3 times a week. I think that it is time for y'all, the men of the Masculine Geek, to go on tour. You have enough of an audience, enough saturation that people would come. It doesn't matter what city you go to. And I keep using Ivan Throne and Bobby Dino as examples, but the reason for that is that I know that I could ask them, I could use some of the Rational Mail royalties like next month and get Ivan, Bobby, Hunter, Steve Williams, tell them parameters, don't use the F word in the churches, please. I could pay for them to go, and they would be glad to go. And they you know, I'm no longer a natural public speaker, and I accept that. So I am not the public speaker on stage. I'm not that vessel. But we know so many men like each one of you that are. And so let's say there's a man in 50 different markets in the country who is able to, who has the pull within a church to be able to get that place for their, you know, I don't know if churches have Sunday night services anymore, but let's just say that it could be a Sunday night service or it could be a special gathering. Would you all be willing to show up and speak? The guys of the Masculine Geek.
Right.
Absolutely.
If I could arrange for you to be, if I could arrange to pay for your flights and a hotel room, would you be willing to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And I know that all of the speakers at the 21 convention would do it in a second. And we all know other men that are not well known yet in the manosphere that would do it. And I just think that this is the only hope. I mean, I told you all that I've died several times, and those experiences are memories that hit me hard. And I run into people very often that I saw when I was dead, but I saw them in the future, and I see what's coming, and it's going to be tough, but it's going to be beautiful, because what I'm talking about is going to happen. And you know, you're watching now, and if there's something pulling inside of you, it's telling you, you know, you got to be a part of this. You got to do it. You know, utilize whatever influence you can. Again, I don't want you to ruin your career, because we need you to, and you need you, and your family needs you to be able to continue to create resources that put food on the table and keep the lights on. But it is time now.
I also just I love what you've been saying about stuff. And I think that there's one other thing that's important, is that men who think the way we do, who haven't maybe even heard of the red pill, they haven't read a rational male book, but they see this stuff and they feel like they're the only one on the planet who does. Or they just feel like they're the only one men who are out there. They feel isolated.
I was going to say, you feel isolated, you feel alone, and you're on this little island just beset.
Yeah, I think that this is the challenge. This is going to be the challenge, is that men who feel the way we do and believe what we believe, not isolate ourselves from other men who feel the same way. And that we not go off into our little, be the lone wolf, be the man on the island, that we find ways to work together and find things to do together, because as much as discussing this stuff and cultivating the I guess the arguments and beliefs and all that stuff, the online environment is not going to be conducive towards creating change, but also just creating the kind of, I'm really big now on creating spaces for men like us. And we have so much knowledge and we have the truth. We can't just sit here and watch things go on and not do anything. And also, we got pulled out of that world, and a lot of men wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. So when we see other men who are struggling, who might need help, part of me just feels like we can't keep our mouths shut. We got to go tell them. At least then, if they reject it, that it's on them. But we know we did the right thing.
And your example in life, the way that I am with my girlfriend now, it's just been transformed because of learning this content and mastering different concepts of it. And people can see that. But like I said, it's not just, do you realize that sitting right over there, there's a camera that new, it cost $3,200, but I bought it on eBay for $450. And so to create a feature film, it's got to be multi-million-dollar budget, or at least $200,000, right? No. To create a feature film, a feature film is 2 hours? No. An hour? 44 minutes. Feature film, to be accepted by the industry and to be accepted on IMDb, there are some qualifications. One of them is that you have to have the minimum camera, which is the old Canon 5D Mark II, which Steve Jobs helped to fund with Canon, because before he died, he wanted the regular person to be able to get a camera that was affordable, that they can make a feature film with, that had a big enough frame, digital frame size, that they could make films and use these beautiful machines to create with. Steve Jobs answered my emails, and there were rumors that he did, and so that's why I started sending him my insane visions, of what could be created. And so every 18 months, I started getting a new machine sent to me. And but it costs nothing but a $450 camera and the $32 cards that go with it, and your time, and a used microphone like this one, which is the standard. It's a Sennheiser 416. Buy these used all day long for $400. It's a standard mic that you put 15 feet away. As far as voice acting, this is one of the secrets. This microphone, because it's $999 new, but you can whisper into it, and stuff is still coming through. That's how I can do some of the emotional parts of, like Ivan's book, but it just doesn't cost much money. You don't even need microphones that are this good, because those cameras have really good microphones in them, and you get a $99 microphone to put on top of it. What I'm saying is that I'm sitting here every day frustrated because I can easily teach pretty much anybody the basic skills to be able to make a feature film. And the other major requirement that is completely counterintuitive is it's not 44 minutes long or 2 hours. It's 21 minutes. That's all it takes to make a feature length film.
That's it.
And so at the 21 convention, I got a couple of attendees to help me out. And we filmed 2 feature-length documentaries at the 21 convention. So how much did that cost me? Nothing but time. And I have a guy that one of my mentors from the early days sent to me, and I helped him to get, work, some really well-known work, and he got to where he just didn't like the industry anymore, and so now he's doing a lot of creative work for a lot of people, but he's editing together those documentaries as we speak. And so the Manosphere is going to have a list of a list of speakers and other people that are all over IMDb. I mean, we literally can create our own celebrities, our own producers, directors, actors, hosts, every single. This is something that I talk about with a lot of people. If you look at the end of a major feature film, every single career path that you can think of, including nurses, doctors, bridge builders, they're all there in the credits. Every job, every career that any person watching has is in the credits of a movie. So everybody has a role to play. And so just what I saw when I was dead, where God is not limited by time. So I was showing all these things in the future. And I'm telling you that this thing that I'm talking about it's basically speaking tours that are happening all the time and all over the world. And eventually they're going to fill stadiums. And they're not going to be expensive. The way that it's going to be funded is by volume, not by price. Stadiums are going to be filled around the world. Films are going to be made, starting with these little 21-minute films I'm doing. And then you're going to do your own. And then you're going to break away from doing documentaries like I'm doing that are 21 minutes. And you're going to make 21-minute feature films that are fiction. Vincent, I know you've written more than just these 2 books. I
have 3 other writing projects. Yeah.
So you got short stories sitting somewhere around your house right now that could be made into films. And I guarantee you that just with the passion of the people whose lives have been saved that reach out to me, I'm not even the author of these books, but their passion, they will do anything to get the word out, and they will do anything for free. And I'm not saying use them to do anything for free. They're begging to do something for free. They want to do it, and they want to do it right now. This is the second 21 convention where I've been accused of sitting different people down and yelling at them for 20 minutes. And I take that as a great compliment, because it's almost like getting a download, because I see them in the future from when I was dead. And I tell them the way things are going to be. I mean, Hunter Drew, he will tell you that he wouldn't be quitting his job right now. Right now. Had I not given him the 20-minute yelling. I mean, you can tell my communication skills are terrible after the stroke. So much better than they were when I couldn't, when people couldn't understand anything I was trying to say. But what happens is it just comes to me. I remember everything that I saw, and then I tell them what's going to happen, and then it happens exactly like I tell them. And I'm telling you guys, that's why I'm so honored to be on your show, because I know what you're doing in the future. and it excites me. And yeah, I got people in the room with me. I want to know, is there anything that I'm missing that I need to be saying here?
All I know is that you've laid out a vision that, man, I want to be on board with that. It's amazing. I believe that you have seen things in the future. And I believe, and I say that because I believe in the supernatural.
Can you hear him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I say that because I believe in the supernatural first and foremost, but second of all, I've heard about other people, having similar experiences where they have experienced the afterlife and have come back with prophetic visions that have worked. Now, and I don't say that to say, that we have to get goosebumps in our skin about this, but we can say this to say that, hey, we can actually jump on board with what's being said because it makes sense. It actually could come to pass. It actually could manifest. And as a result of that manifesting, why not? Well, why not be part of that? This is a beautiful vision that's laid out. If we believe in ourselves and we can just have a little bit of faith in the words that are being spoken, nothing can stop us. I believe 100% of the vision that you're saying. I'm looking forward to being part of it any way that I can be. And I know that these gentlemen that are on here at this podcast are already part of it, and they're already contributing to that vision, and it's only going to grow from here. So I just offer my words of encouragement for having the honor to sit into this room and be part of this little thing that you're doing.
So this gentleman is in the room with me right now. I don't know if you want me to share with him your name. I'm amazed.
Yeah, Frank, man.
And so this is Frank Pesci. I didn't know if you want me to say your last name. Anyway, this man, he's just extraordinary. He traveled 7 hours to be here, to have this discussion that I'm having with you right now, because like Anthony has got balls of steel. I mean, to
Agreed.
put on the quality of events that he does, he's amazing. So I'm not talking about competing with Anthony. I'm talking about
It's a joint effort.
I'm talking about complimenting what he's doing, because he has set the freaking standard. And but what I'm seeing is something that is like new. Like when Cirque du Soleil came out, the reason that those shows are still packed 96% every 5 nights a week, each one of them, they run 5 nights a week, 2 shows a night. The reason they're still packed in Las Vegas, and the reason that people will pay $182 per ticket to go see those, is that they are like nothing they have ever seen. It's like nothing else exists like it on earth. And so what I saw when I was dead, even though to me it's being fully vividly like word cannot describe, there's something new, and it's all, the blueprint of it is all laid out. I hear it, I see it, I feel it. I experience it. I experience it all day, every day. And that's why I appreciate y'all having me on, because it's just it's already happened. It's hard to explain, but
Just the beginning from the end.
I saw, God sees the beginning from the end, and I saw it all. It's already happened. And so you're watching, I don't know if you're home alone, if Game of Thrones is on the background, but the fact is that you've got a role to play in this. You have specific talents. Whether you believe in God or not is irrelevant to the conversation. You have talents that were given to you, I believe, by God, and it's time to utilize them. Frank and I were discussing this a couple of weeks ago. I was never talented. I was never the most talented person, or even 10% of talent, but I just busted my butt more than most people would. I think we were talking about a lot of people say, well, Hollywood's controlled by the Jews. Well, Jews that control Hollywood, they're not going out and handpicking people like me that are devout Christians, because they deem us all lazy. But this is something that is different from the mundane of our daily work. Although I enjoy my work, but a lot of people don't enjoy their work. And somebody that has something, a project like what we're talking about to work out on the side, that is like the passion of their life. That could turn their marriage around. Just the way that, it's like, okay, I know Jay Campbell and Jim Brown are in this space, and I can go learn from them how to build my body without having to work out 6 hours a day. I can do it in 30 minutes, 3 times a week. And I can start eating grass-fed beef all the time, and organic chicken and vegetables, and cut out all the sugar, because I'm a man, and a man is not living by food. It's one of the things we're talking about the all the shows on the food networks. They're teaching men how to live by food, and food that is destroying them and taking away their manhood. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, man has always thrived when they're presented with challenges. And we are facing the challenge of a lifetime right now. And this is an opportunity for this generation of men to stand up, confront this challenge, overcome this challenge, and become the great leaders and men with purpose that we were created to be. This is a time like no other to be alive. I love what you guys are saying. This is so awesome.
And you're listening to Frank Pesci, who he started with nothing. Then he builds an empire, and then he loses much in the crash. And so what does he do? He goes back and works in the steel industry, which ain't easy. And he rebuilt. He was wise. He has a wife who's crazy about him, and she stuck with him through all of that. And it must have been miserable hell.
No, we did it together, and we challenged each other, we pushed each other, we complimented each other, we lifted each other up, and at the end of the day, even through tough times, we were able to build a bond that today unifies us in a very strong way. And she allows me to be the leader of the household. Not that she allows me; I am the leader of the household. You know what I mean? But I don't ever get any pushback from being the leader of the household. She loves that I lead the household. And by the way, the word father means in ancient Hebrew means holder of the household, right? So holder of the house, and I'm allowed to do my job as the holder of the house. Hey guys, how are you?
You are now. What's up? It's nice to meet you.
Hey man, good to be with you guys. I'm allowed to be the holder of my house because I've demonstrated that I'm willing to accept the challenges. And I'm willing to push forward into the things that confront us and do it with enthusiasm and do it with strength, and then bring people around us that complement the vision, complement the things that we're doing, so that we're working towards a unified goal continuously and constantly. And in being able to be sitting here with you guys and listening to Sam, there is a unified goal here, and there are some strong men, there are some wise men, there are some brave men in this space that have the opportunity to step up and take this generation back, raise our children up to a new standard, which they were created from the beginning of time. There has never been a time in history when it has been so difficult to be a man as it is today. It was almost automatic that manhood was given to you, respect was given to you, the ability to provide and protect and rule your home and conquer and do things. It was automatic. Today, that's all been taken away.
It's all gone. Yeah, it's all gone.
I can't hear what he's saying, but I want to. I don't have my phone there. Hang on.
He's agreeing with you. Said that,
it's all gone. Yeah.
No, it's all right. This is Sam's hour.
I'm
just here to help. That's it. I was the guy punching the comments saying thank you very much to everybody.
No, it's good.
But I appreciate you conveying what I'm trying to say to them, because it's already happened, and we just need you. I mean, the man that's watching, and the essence of what Frank has in his home, and the rest of the story is he busted his rear in that industry, and then turned things around, and now he's in a position where he's doing his dream. He's building out something that is going to completely transform lives. And the other part of it is I sent some messages to y'all last week just about all the very creative but very natural therapies that I'm getting. And this is something that Frank, I keep talking about how Frank is doing exactly what Jesus would do. I mean, he's opening up. Can I tell him?
Yeah.
Or I'll let you tell him. But anyway, he's opening up basically a series of medical offices that are going to do things that other
non-traditional medicine is going to be coming to places where they don't otherwise have access to that type of stuff. So.
Yeah, and so it's and in doing so, it makes the unaffordable affordable. Most of my doctors don't take insurance, because if they did, they'd be controlled. They'd be seeing 35 patients a day instead of 6, and they would lose their license if they were to do things like 10-pass ozone therapy with Frank Schallenberger, MD. Now there are 400 doctors across the country that have given up taking insurance so that they can do things like that. And so Frank, as the man that he is, has decided to that this is a way to help people everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was like a young guy getting started off, I remember having a conversation with my brother. You know, we were young, we were like smoking pot and stuff, and we're standing outside. I'm like, you know what, man? Here's the master plan. Okay, I'm going to learn. I'm going to get a trade, or I'm going to develop myself in education. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to build about $40 million in net worth, $20 million in liquidity, and I'm going to build a hospital somewhere in the world. And he looks at me and he goes, that's like the master plan. I go, if that's what you call it. You know, I didn't know what I was talking about. I was a young guy, but I don't even need to wait for all that. We can do these things right now. You know, it's all about, you know, teamwork and working with people around you that have skill sets, that have influence, that have a desire to push forward and to grow things. As it just so happens, you know, I do have a background in medicine in terms of the administrative side, the business and the development end of things. I have a background in real estate and money and finance. I was on Wall Street for a while. And these are things that have attracted me. And just by naturally having these conversations, opportunities have come up where now we're able to serve the public. We're able to help people. We're able to apply our knowledge, and we're able to benefit our community as men. You know what I mean? Just so happens that we're men, you know, and to do great things for our community. And we have so many challenges that are before us, and everybody has a purpose and a gift. Everybody's born with a gift. And that gift is to bring a solution to the world, because there's problems and challenges everywhere. And we have an opportunity to serve each other. And I'm excited about the future. I don't know about you guys. When I hear Sam speak and I hear him talk about some of the things that he sees, you know, in a prophetic kind of way, and, you know, how he views the future, man, I'm excited. Yeah, there's some challenges. I'm excited. You know, thank God. I have sons. I can't wait to see the men that they're going to become. And I'm doing everything I can as a father to speak into them and to nurture their gifts and develop their gifts, you know. So this is kind of new to me anyway, the space. You know, I had an opportunity to go to the 21 convention. It was just such a huge blessing for me to be there. I heard things spoken in a light and in a way that I never heard before. I mean, they were inside of me and they were ingrained in me. So when I heard it, I was like, yes, that's right. And I was able to respond to it. And as a result, I'm sitting here in a room with great men like yourselves, and I'm able to convey these, you know, these feelings and who I am as a person naturally, because the environment created that for me. It created a place for me to say that. So I think as more people, and I've been reading the comments on here, I think as more people become aware of what's going on and realize that there are men that are actually engaging and they're actually talking about these things. Come on. Are you guys hopeful about the future? I am. Turn that computer. Let them see your pretty face.
I'm hopeful about the future. But you know,
Absolutely.
another thing, you know, with what Frank is doing, and it's going to end up spreading all over the country and all around the world. But what he's doing is something that I wanted to tell y'all is I have a great appreciation for the fact that all of you are in great physical condition. That's on purpose. And with what we have to do as men, we have no choice but to not only live longer, but to live in excellent, functional health.
Absolutely.
And this is not hard. And I don't know, just from what he said, I think that livefearless.com is going to be changed. Just to give away a lot of the they're not secrets, just the stuff that is keeping me alive. I mean, I think that every man would benefit from having what is now affordable, never was before, but recently a company, they had a visionary. They're like, we're going to make hyperbaric chambers that'll be approved by the FDA that any man, any person can afford. And that's why I have one that I travel with. And that has been life-changing, that with the oxygen concentrators.
Why people perish for lack of knowledge. You know what I mean? The fact that this knowledge is becoming available to the average man. Just through you talking. I learned things from speaking to you where I was like, whoa, I was like, get out of here. This opens my eyes even in a new direction, and I'm in the field of medicine. You know, as more men become aware of things, then you have what's called the mastermind, right? Like Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich. He said you have two people that come together. You have one mind, you have a second mind, that come together and form a third mind, which is the mastermind. So as these conversations continue to happen, it's unlimited what we can achieve. The potential is absolutely unlimited. Sam, I cannot wait for livefearlessly.com to reveal more of what you're doing. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. So, what about you guys? I want you to be, I want every man to be super healthy, because you're going to need it, because we got a lot of work to do, and it's in times are going to get tougher. I mean, look, every week there's a new hashtag coming out.
Yeah.
And it's out of control, but we can take back over that control by making films. We can make TV shows. It really doesn't cost money. It just takes time. And it takes people with a passion to be able to get this stuff done. I mean, like anything that you film, there's technology inside of this Mac right now that can fix pretty much anything. And and all we need are great editors. And there are plenty of great editors. And the truth is, it's like if we do what I'm talking about these events that are different than anybody's ever seen. It's more than it's not like Tony Robbins. It's not like a speaking tour. It's more like Cirque du Soleil meets Coldplay in concert, meets the 21 convention. And none of these things are expensive.
Everyone has a role.
Yeah. And you can do a whole lot with graphics on screens in the background, and with music, and somehow all these composers that make music on the quality of movie trailer music and soundtracks. I mean, they've been sent to me, and they're ready. They are ready to create whatever it takes, and I know y'all are ready to do whatever it takes, and I know the person watching, you are ready to do whatever it takes. So. Grow these guys' channel, subscribe to their channel, and send them ideas. Send me ideas. Send Frank ideas. Just and say what you're going to do. And like I'm serious about these venues in every city, in every region. We need those venues, because all the speakers, they're all ready to drop everything every weekend and show up, or during the week, whatever it takes.
What's that tell you?
Like I said, I mean, like I need the Rational Male royalties, and the 9 Laws, which is coming, and all the rest. I need it all. There's a threshold at which if I don't have a certain amount every month, I will die. So I need the royalties, but I have told some of these speakers next month, I'm supposed to. I've got 3 doctors begging me to get this device that basically makes my left leg bionic. But see, I've got Oliver, Rational Male listeners paid for his training, and so I got Oliver. He's my left leg, and so I can forego getting this bionic device a little longer in order to fund speakers to show up somewhere to speak on Father's Day. Today, I put out a video that I made a while back. It was kind of a joke that I did in the kitchen in front of a couple of friends, where Victor Fried, boldanddetermined.com. Every man needs to read every word of it. But where he had done this post, and he was just talking about how men are effete weaklings today and what to do about it. And one of the things he said was, you go to the Christian church on Mother's Day, and, men are demonized, and, women are praised for all things. They're the only godly ones. Then you go to church on Father's Day, and you're told what a piece of shit you are, and how you better do better. And what I don't know. I mentioned this to Frank earlier. These smaller events will not be smaller. I think they will be smaller for about a week.
Yeah, I'm buying my tickets ahead of time.
And so I think that there's somebody watching that is in one of these towns where there's quite a big church that has access and can open up those doors. I mean, I don't know all the logistics, but I know it's going to happen. And this is going to be rampant. It's going to scare the mess out of the culture creation industry. And it's going to begin on Father's Day this year, not next year, this year. Father's Day is a pivotal time because this is the time where more men, I don't have to apologize for the fact that this nation was apparently founded on Christian principles. And so the churches, the men are falling out, and the men that are there are being castrated, especially on Father's Day. And I think that Father's Day, we just finished the 21 Convention Patriarchs Edition. And I think that Father's Day is the pivotal day that this has to begin. And what I'd like to see, if they're willing to do it, I'd like to see Ivan Throne, Bobby Dino, and 5 others. I will spend there's the threshold, and I will spend the rest of it to fly them in, pay them to speak, get them hotel rooms, so that this will happen. But there has to be a place somewhere in the U.S., preferably in the Bible Belt or in the other Bible belt of like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, or even Los Angeles, because there is quite a remnant there, where this thing begins. And I'm asking you, if you have that kind of access, if you can help to make this happen in any way, it's urgent. We have to do it. And again, this is not something that I plan on making money from. I'm planning on spending every dime that I have extra on this, because I don't know how long I have to live anyway. And I don't have any kids. I don't have anybody to leave this to. And I have nothing to leave anyway. I mean, millions of dollars spent getting me this far. So what I have is what comes in every month. And I just, I will do whatever it takes to see this happen, because it is the only hope for masculinity in the world. And it begins in the U.S. U.S., for better or worse, it influences the entire world. Oh, that lost me. Gotcha. Okay. Trust. Huh.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
You're
Yeah,
still,
maybe
you're still rolling.
okay, maybe the Wi-Fi in here.
That's okay.
So
We're coming up on the 2.5 hour mark. Is there anything else, Sam, you wanted to mention before we wrap this up?
yeah, I just can't thank y'all enough for being patient with me. Again, my communication skills are just not. I'm just not back there yet, and I may never be. Probably won't be. But I'm just thankful for every day, and I'm thankful for y'all being willing to listen to me rattle on for 2.5 hours.
No, absolutely, Sam. It's our pleasure and it's our honor. Thank you for that.
Very honored.
Yeah, thank
Very
you so
honored.
much for being here. As far as your communication skills, it's great. So
yeah.
don't think nothing of that. But once again, thanks again for being on. We'd love to have you back, obviously, and obviously being in touch. Is there anything else you want to point people to, websites, any links you want people to know about, and also things that I can put in the show notes later?
I learned when I died, I have to use my real name. And so I'm going to give you, so just livefearless.com, livefearless.com. It's a website. And sam@livefearless.com is my email. And because I'm asking some pretty hard things, I'm going to give my iPhone number. And this is my actual iPhone number. It's not a Google number or any of that. Here's my number. Text me anytime, day or night. Talking on the phone, as you can tell from this conversation, it's a little bit difficult for me. So text me. 650-862-4172. 650-862-4172.
All right.
Because I know there's somebody that is watching now or will be watching that can do any number of the things that we've discussed tonight.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for being on with us. It's been this has been almost overwhelming. I'm still
Yeah.
We're still wrapping my head around our entire discussion, and it's invigorating and enlivening at the same time. So this has been it's hard to put words to. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. This has been Masculine Geek. This has been an amazing episode, and we will see you all next. Actually, some people will see you on Saturday when we do our Masculine Geek, our version of Cartoon Hour. So this is Masculine Geek number 19 signing off. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you again soon.
See you guys.